All right, we do have quite a lot of people on the call, so for the sake of time, will just kind of get started with a little bit of an intro, and then we can move into Chris's presentation. Um, Welcome everyone. For those of you who stayed after the orientation, we're excited to have you join us for this workshop as well. As one of our our small business development programs, oops, sorry. We run workshops and networking events for small businesses who are part of our community. And this is our last workshop of the year, but I think this is probably the highest attended workshop we've had the whole season. So thank you so much for being here. The holidays are such a fun, but also, lucrative time for small businesses. And so we really want to ensure that you are set up for success. And so tonight we'll be hearing from several really amazing presenters, Chris Tjersland and Lori Hunter from New Seasons Market. Chris is their Director of Brand Strategy and Development and also a VFM board member. And then Lori is their local finds and special events manager. They will be sharing all about sort of just market holiday readiness, local gift giving trends, building holiday bundles, collaborating with different businesses to create unique holiday finds. And then after that, we will hear from two very experienced, longtime small businesses of our market community, Supak of PakHye Goods and Kathy Johnson of Farm Made Soap. With that, Chris, are you ready? I'm going to pass it off to you and Lori, and I will stop sharing my screen. Then you should be able to share.
Perfect. I know Lori's on here because I looked for her in this group is big. Wasn't expecting this many people. This is impressive, I gotta say. This is great. Thanks, Kelsey. I appreciate it. And good evening, everybody. I just want to let you know, Lori and I guess, feel privileged to be invited to come and speak to you tonight. Lori and I both work for New Seasons Market. As Kelsey said, we both have both of our jobs have a lot to do with working with local vendors, but I think our farmers market experience is probably limited in terms of when we go to markets, we go as a customer and a potential customer for new seasons. We're always looking for, for new brands to bring on the shelf. So what we're going to share tonight is kind of our observations, I think, from that standpoint, and a lot of the brands that we work with that come out of the farmers market and feedback we get. So hopefully it's helpful. I'm going to also be honest that Lori is the expert in this. She does a lot of work with our local vendor community, and has a lot of insights. That she works with people like from Built Oregon and the Food Innovation Center and Get Your Recipe to Market. So she's had a lot of exposure to local the vendors like yourselves and has attended a lot of markets like I have as well. So I'm gonna jump in here a little bit. Kelsey, I'm guessing would you prefer to wait with questions till the end because I can't see the whole group.
Yeah, we can do questions at the end.
Okay. Sounds good. Hang tight here just a minute. I'm going to share real quick. Everybody see that okay? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yes.
Hang tight here. So Lori and I put together just a couple of slides to share. We're going to kind of tag team this. It's not extremely well rehearsed, so we may bounce back and forth a little bit, but we just wanted to share some insights that we have. We do, one of the things I will say, I know Lori and I are fans of farmers markets from the standpoint is that a lot of the most successful brands we have on our shelves come from farmers markets because they tend to be people who have kind of mastered their craft, meaning that they've taken a lot of customer input. They make adjustments as they need to. They've maybe figured out what their target price is. In most cases, hopefully know their cost of goods. So they tend to be a notch above a lot of folks that come into the market in that they've got some experience and you have a customer base in a lot of situations where I know Vancouver Farmers Market is a year-round market, but it is nice to have folks from the farmers market that like to expand into to grocery stores come in and present to us, because it is it generally they're, it's a group of people that have a little bit more business savvy in terms of what their customers are looking for. So I'm going to dive in, and Lori, sorry, I'll stop talking, I promise.
You're good.
Okay. Um, so we've got some themes here we're gonna share. One of the things that Lori and I are big fans of is when you're talking about your brand is also talking about yourself. So one of the things we find is that when you're creating retail theater, especially during the holidays when traffic hopefully is much higher at the market and people are looking for kind of cool and new products that they can purchase and give as gifts to family, friends, whatever that happens to be. But I think a big part of it is telling your story. And what we found is customers love a producer and product story. Why you're making this product, what brought you to this point. Sometimes if it's a food item, it can be health related. Sometimes it can be an old family recipe. It could be any number of things, but I think your ability to share that with customers at the market is always key. A lot of times I know you work multiple markets, so if it's a staff member, maybe it's a script that they can use to tell your story, in your absence in those situations. If you don't necessarily have a compelling story, but you want to continue, you also want to, engage customers. Like another couple things you can think about is gifts that give back. If it happens to be something that maybe gives to the Clark County Food Bank, or it gives to a local organization during the holidays, that's also a trigger for customers to want to support a brand. And then, as always, I think focusing on the fact that you're locally made is a huge part of why you're here and in the market. Just one side note on this is making sure you're gift ready when you're at the market, and that's like having packages pre-wrapped or using gift tags. You kind of taking the guesswork out of it for the shopper to say, well, I can buy this, I can literally give it to somebody now because it's ready to go. So those are just little things that you can keep in mind. Lori, I'm going to let you jump in here.
So thanks, Chris. My name is Lori Hunter. I just celebrated 10 years with New Seasons Market. And out of those 10 years, I've curated a holiday local gifting end cap. So I have some experience in this space, and the grocery product is going to be different from the farmer's market product. So I'm going to try to be mindful of that, but I do kind of get caught up in the grocery speak. Chris put together this slide because what we find customers responding to are bundles, like little gift sets. And as long as they're easy to grab, self-care, soaps and lotions, bath bombs, people really love the convenience during the holidays. And if you can have any kind of like easy to gift item, maybe there's a gift tag included or a ribbon or something, so you just want to make it convenient for the customers too. Uh-oh, they're not seeing the slide.
Oh,
I can see it.
I see this slide on my end, Chris.
okay.
Okay, I'm just gonna
I won't
keep I'm gonna keep moving then. So if it's a limited edition of something, if you want to try something too, that's a good time because you don't have to do a significant buy of the product. So if you wanted to collaborate with another brand, that's very trending right now in the food space and the gifting space too. If you wanted to, sorry, I'm looking at this slide. I can't see that. Hold on. If you want to, like, for example, we have Ranger Chocolate here in Portland. They've collaborated with Ground Up. They do a nut butter, and they've made a holiday sort of a Reese's peanut butter cup using the two. It's a little higher end than a Reese's peanut butter cup, and they're just doing it as a limited release for the holidays. So it's just a great way to try all that product. And if it works and if customers respond to it, then they'll go forward with it. But if there isn't a response to it because it's a little high in the retail price point, they won't. They'll just keep it as a gifting option. And so price variety leading into that, I'll just use Ranger as an example. So they make really beautiful chocolate bars. And as you know, the chocolate market right now the prices have gone up significantly. They don't really want to pass that cost on to the customers. So they've built these other items, these holiday items, and some chocolate covered hazelnuts and chocolate covered cherries. And they're presenting those as a premium product but they have a higher margin than the chocolate does. So by blending the hazelnuts and cherries with the high cost of the chocolate, they're still being profitable. So holidays is maybe a good time to come up with some really great margin items for you, if that makes sense. Okay, next slide. And then here are some gifts that we're bringing in this year. Packaging is key. For the grocery space, we really ask that you have a cutout window so the customers can see what's inside of it. The Portland syrups this year launched coffee syrups, which is great because it's right on trend. They're little 2-ounce bottles. It's at a $14.99 retail. We've sold their cocktail mixer kits in the past, and customers love them. It's a highest unit mover for us. Something new this year, and we were talking about brands with a purpose, is this seasoning salt. This is somebody who's new to the grocery space. She's taken her dad's seasoning salt and created the savory one, and then the sweet drops is sort of a cinnamon sugar. So a savory and a sweet gift pack, and it's crafted with a purpose because her dad's a veteran. So the branding is a little bit of a nod to the army, I think that's what he was in, or whatever, the armed forces. And then there's a give back to veterans component to this, and it really shows up great on the packaging. And then the bottom one is the We Must. It's a female-run mustard company, also new this year. And she's branding it as dipping mustard, which is nice because that differentiates from mustard. It's a little bit more viscous. There's more viscosity in it, so you can dip pretzels into it. It's delicious. There's 3 different flavors. And we brought in her single items, and then she came up with this cute gift pack too that will also land at $14.99. This year we're trying to be sensitive to the retails for customers, and this is a great option for people that are maybe shopping at new seasons for their holiday meals. And then there's just this convenient of a local gift set for them to pick up if they wanted something for their neighbor, their teacher, or their postman or something. And then the last one is this figgy pudding. This is something we did not bring in, but this is an ideal product for a farmer's market. We didn't bring it in because there's not a window in it. Customers wouldn't be able to see what's inside of it. But if you were at the farmer's market and could have a box open and show all the different components to the baking mix and maybe have some finished product for people to sample, it's very unique. It also landed a little bit higher. It was going to be close to a $40 retail, which we didn't feel like it was the best fit for a grocery store. But certainly for a boutique or a farmer's market, this is great packaging. And without having the cutout window, you can certainly keep the cost down too. So speaking of costs, when you have these little specialty packages, the packaging is more expensive than if you're just making your single items as well. So in the past, the producers have tried to pass the cost on of that packaging, and we realized quickly that the customers were smart and they didn't want to pay for the extra packaging. For example, if you sold jam for $10 a jar and you had 3 jars in your gift set, and then you were charging not $30, but maybe $35 or $37 because the packaging was so expensive to produce, customers quickly saw that and said, well, why would I pay extra? I can just buy the jam separately and put it in a gift bag myself. So keep in mind when you're building these gift sets, if you use a different size bottle than your regular products, that makes it unique. And if you do use your regular size bottle in a gift set, try to absorb the packaging into the cost of goods. So if you had the 3 sets of $10 jams, if you could land at a $29.99 retail, customers would really appreciate that. Okay, thanks.
Yep. One note on that, there are, depending on the size of your packaging, there are kind of standardized boxes, window boxes like this that you can buy. They don't always work, but there are some that are done by people like Columbia Corrugated, I know, does some things like this where you can still print on them, but it doesn't become a custom box. So maybe you can keep your minimums down a little bit and maybe control the cost a little bit versus like with the Portland syrups is something that's a very customized box. So just something to keep in mind. Thanks, Lori. We also wanted to touch just briefly on seasonal branding. So, I think one of the things that we find is it isn't always necessary to do a full rebrand during the holidays. it's really, you can do something more that's just a seasonal twist. And the example we used here is, this is an item we brought in for the holidays from a group in Oregon called Pharmacopoeia Farms. They do chocolate covered hazelnuts that are actually rolled in powdered sugar. And what they did is, literally, if you can tell, the top photo is their standard package. It just has kind of a thin blue ribbon on it that matches the label color. For the holidays, all they did was a simple, just a thicker bow that has a little bit more of a dressed up feel to it, and makes it feel more holiday. You can do other things, like you can add stickers to the top of your packaging, or on on the jar, that makes it, maybe something a little bit more holiday themed. But I don't always know that you think that you need to do a full on rebrand of your current packaging just to accommodate the holidays, unless
Yeah,
it's
I
limited
don't
to
really
one.
recommend that either.
Yeah,
I think you can be creative in your booth with decor maybe, or your tablescape, but you really get locked if you do something that's seasonal, holiday, like if it was like Thanksgiving, or let's just say a Christmas product on December 26th, it's no good to you anymore. So this is a great example of using your everyday branding and then just adding a red bow. And then if you have extra red bows, that could easily roll into a Valentine's Day gift as well. So you just want to be mindful of the time span of a holiday item as well.
perfect. And then, as always, like we mentioned in the opening slide, is the ability to tell your story on your labels. You're probably doing that already now, but if there's an opportunity to do that during the holidays, especially if you're giving it to somebody, you can say, wow, I met this really cool vendor at the market. There's a little story about who you are, what you do, and why you do it. I always think that that's a great way for people to, to maybe, if they haven't bought your product, to come seek you out at the market in the future. Lori, do you want to touch on this real quick?
Yeah, so you maybe want to lead off with some sort of pricing promotion. And that's, you can either do it in the beginning if you need to move through a lot of product, or if at the end, if you're looking like you're long on inventory. Customers really respond to that. If you buy two, get one free, or we do a lot of BOGOs, buy one, get one. If you wanted to do an early bird special to offer incentives for shopping early, customers are really coming out. I was just in Nordstrom today, and they're full on Christmas, so it's already starting. And the trend in the past 3 years is that customers shop early. And that's due to supply chain challenges that happened post pandemic, where people were afraid of running out of things. So now they're habitually shopping earlier, and then it kind of offsets the cost of trying to do all of your shopping in December. So anytime you could incentivize it to get some early purchasing in, that's great. There's loyalty cards, which customers love, and it creates a repeat customer. And then you can give them some sort of gift at the end. And then if you do things that are exclusive that they can only get at the market, people love exclusivity too.
Thanks. Um, just some thoughts on how you turn a holiday shopper into a year-round customer. And again, these are kind of just observations that Lori and I have, and some of these things that we actually try to do, because we love when customers come back and shop our stores. But one of the big things is if there's any way to get contact info from your customers at the market, either through a discount or an entry into a giveaway. I know people are always a little worried about, well, I don't want to give my contact information out, but if there's any way to incentivize them to, you can send them, future messages about things that you're working on or what's coming up at the market. The thought around using QR codes are always effective. QR codes became big during kind of COVID and have still been very popular. A lot of people use them on packaging to tell their story or guide you to their website. The one thing we would caution you on, and we've seen this come up in situations where, is verifying the source of your QR code, because it's become a really common way for cyber criminals to do phishing, or it takes you to a website that's not yours. So just make sure that whatever you're using is, something that you've verified on your end. Including like next step promos. We call these in the grocery industry bounce back, which means that a customer comes in, they buy something, and we want them to come back. So we may say, you've probably seen this at other stores, where 10% off your next purchase when you come back in the store. You could do it where you pose it as 10% off, a visit after the new year, in January or February. And also along those lines is just a follow-up strategy of suggesting, like simple post-holiday emails, or if you're doing a social campaign that says, here's what's coming up for our brand in the new year. If you've got that contact information, you can share that with customers so you keep them coming back time and time again. Anything you want to add, Lori, on that?
No, I think that's good. I think it's important while you have the holiday shopper that you're taking advantage of it and trying to create a return customer and a happy customer too. We see at New Seasons what we call celebration customers, so the people that just shop New Seasons during the holidays. They might be, shopping at Safeway or Fred Meyer every day, but they want to come in for specialty cheeses or wine, or maybe they're picking up their holiday turkey. And so that's why we really want to have everything ready and try to wow them when they're in the store and make sure they come back. And I think you can apply that same strategy in the markets.
Um, and then we just have a couple more slides to share, but that creating that sales mindset. So obviously you want to make sure you have plenty of product, in your booth to meet demand. It's always hard when you get into gift packs and custom packs. And if you're, to know, well, how many, I don't know how many I'm going to sell. It's always a good idea too, if you're doing those gift packs, that it's something that can be broken down. What I mean is, if it's a gift pack of 3 different flavors, that those 3 different flavors could be sold individually after the holidays, where it goes right back into your normal inventory. But it's, you never want to run out, especially when you have a captive audience in a market like that. Practicing upselling. I know a lot of, if a lot of you do multiple markets and you have other staff that work your booths, is maybe giving them a script on how they can say, hey, you should try this, but you should also try this item. It's something that's been really popular with customers. Or, maybe it's another value added item you have in your booth. When we talk about preparing a script, it's kind of like I said, is just things that you can share with your team that's in the booth, or somebody who's maybe manning a booth at a different market, is just, some different things about why it's a cool gift, maybe experiences you've had that's been extremely popular during the holidays because it's something different and unique. And then, uh, you know, tracking what works is just kind of paying attention. Of course, you would do this probably in most cases, but if you have something that's extremely successful, you probably want to, repeat it next year. If it's not, then maybe it's, okay to ask customers, like, well, what didn't you like about this particular gift set, or whatever we're doing? Is it price? Is it the mix? Is it, whatever it might happen to be? But, just keeping track of what's working for you. Lori, anything?
I think you got it. I
Okay.
think that's, yeah.
And that's us. That's everything.
And I know there's a lot of this was focused on food space, but this also applies to any home goods item or wellness items as well. It's just you're selling product. We just work a lot in the food space. That's why the pictures wrote food.
Yeah. The other thing is, I will share this presentation with Kelsey, and she is welcome to share it out. There's nothing in here that's proprietary to us. So Kelsey, you're welcome to share this out with the group.
Great, I absolutely will. It looks like we've got just a couple questions in the chat. If you have other questions, you can put them there, or come off your microphone, but I will start just kind of in order. There's a question about, like, for those who don't maybe have packaged goods, so this business specifically sells like hot food that's prepared on site to eat on site. Do you have any suggestions for how they might stand out during the holidays or put a holiday twist on their
I'm so bored with this.
Uh-oh. Possibly gift cards. If you could, if people were there, you could sell them a gift card for people to come to the market and then purchase in the future.
Yeah, that's
Are they, is there any way you could create a product for people to take home and reheat at home, or is it just ready to eat?
Yeah, this business reminded me they also sell, so they sell packaged arancini and packaged lasagna to be taken home and cooked at home.
Oh,
Yep. So along those lines, I'll just throw this out. So we do a line of fresh pasta that we sell in our stores. We do seasonal varieties. Like right now, we're doing something that's like a butternut and blue cheese. It's kind of that, item that's center of a plate type product that people can take home and use, but it's very seasonal. Like, squash is big right now. People are looking for quick meal ideas. That might be another thing, is to tie in something, or tie in with a local farm, or an ingredient that's a little unique for the holidays.
Great, thank you. And then the next question is, for a 3-pack, is it good to price a little lower, or can it be the same price as a typical unit of 3?
It can be the same. You just don't want it to be more. And we've learned that over time. And that's why the miniature sizes are great, because if you're using your full size product in the box, then you're going to probably end up eating the cost of the packaging. So if you can do a smaller format size and create a trio of smaller bottles, you might be able to make more money that way. But then you're locked into some packaging purchasing too. So and we found with hot sauces, the folks that make the smaller bottle of hot sauces, people love those. And then if we try to pack 4 regular size hot sauces in a gift set, customers don't really respond to that. I don't know if they don't want 3 full size hot sauces, or it's just interesting. I guess people love miniature things too.
The next question is, do you have any advice on how to project how much product to have prepared for an event, a multi-day event, or just a one-day holiday event where we know there will be more traffic and more impulse buying?
Is this at the farmer's market or an offsite event somewhere else?
I think the person who asked this will be, I think, correct me,
Farmer's market?
definitely the farmer's market, yeah.
Yeah. So you could look at your trends, how many, look at what you've been selling for the last 3 months, and then multiply that times 20%, and that should give you your lift. We always expect to see about 20% more people in our stores. And then just making sure that I don't know if there's any projections that the people at the farmers market can share with you about how many people are showing up too.
It's a great thought. Another thought might be, if you're doing a gift pack and you're using, say, your normal size package in a window box, for example, is just having extra. Maybe it's in your car, in your van, in your truck, but you've got inventory there that if on the fly you had to pack up 10 more gift packs, you've got, the inventory there. It's hard when you're doing something that's kind of customized, or like it's a unique flavor, unique size for the holidays. That's also kind of works to your advantage sometimes, because in the one slide where we talked about scarcity, is sometimes when you give that idea that like this is limited time, when it's gone, it's gone. It tends to get people to feel like I need to buy this now, or I'm going to lose out. And we've done that in the past, and it's intentional, but with that idea that we only have a limited supply, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is from one of our bakers who currently sells baked goods at our farmers market. She's participating in our holiday market this year as well, and will be expanding into packaged products specifically for the holiday market. She's asking if you have any recommendations on eco-friendly packaging that will still sell.
Great question. Nobody has been able to make an eco-friendly clamshell. That's what we want. Somebody needs to invent that. Yeah, that's hard. Chris, you have done some work in that space.
So part of my role at New Seasons is a lot of private label. We deal with a lot of packaging, and I have packaging vendors I can share. If you can share with Kelsey or Jordan, what specifically you're looking for, I might be able to pass along to them a resource that you could look into. Somebody locally that maybe we work with that has some other options.
Thank you for offering that, Chris. I can definitely connect you too. Okay, are there any other questions about their presentation before we move on?
And if you think it was something, Chris and I are both available too. You can reach out to us as well.
Thank you so much, Chris and Lori. That was a really, really great presentation.
Thanks
Very
for inviting us.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Okay.
Okay, so next we're going to shift into the small business perspective portion. We're going to start with Sue Pack. Sue is uh, was kind enough to come back for a second year and do this presentation for us because it was so good last year. So we're excited to have her back. Sue, I'm gonna pass it to you. And did you want to share your presentation or do you want me to pull it up for
If
you?
you don't mind pulling it up.
Yeah, okay. Just give me 1 second. You can start and introduce yourself and I will pull it up.
And you can kind of go through the slides quickly if you want, or just sort of depending on how we're talking. But hi, I'm Sue of PakHye Goods. And to be honest, this is kind of how my brain works. So this might not work for everybody. But in the way that I think of doing different shows during the holidays, I end up stacking my calendar. So I end up doing very different for most of the month of November and December. So this is just kind of like a little insight that I have into what helps me. And so when the nice thing about being a part of Vancouver Farmers Market is that you kind of get to test run all of your ideas every weekend that you're there. So you get to test out new displays and new products. And that's what I use as sort of practice until we get to the holidays. And then you can kind of figure out what works for you and how comfortable you are. But I just wanted to show, so if you go to the next one, all the different avenues of being outside, being inside, and then our regular farmers market. And I know it may not seem like such a big difference, but there is a huge difference going from outside to inside. And talking to people sometimes. And I think the biggest thing that kind of helps is to just make the booth, make your space comfortable for you, as if you are at the regular market, and figure out kind of what works for you. Because if you have a whole different setup that you are not comfortable with, then it might not be a good experience. So just kind of go with what you know and learn from that. But I will say that uh, doing different booth setups as you go along really does help. And so I just have a few examples of, and granted, this is from this year or last year. Some of these might be AI, so I apologize. And but I just wanted to show a few different booths in terms of sort of holiday decor. However you choose to make your space festive and fun is obviously up to you, but also you don't want to make it too festive or too much where it doesn't highlight your products. So if it doesn't quite work for you, I feel like you don't need to do that. You have enough of a customer base that does come to the market on a regular basis that they know you, they know your products, and maybe they're just waiting for this time of year to, really dive in for gifts. So, and basically, in terms of doing different shows for the holidays, what I find very helpful is to print out load-in instructions, have them with you, write your booth number on it, make sure that you actually kind of know the layout of where you're going to be, especially with the specifically, there's 2 loading areas, and you'll kind of want to know what you need to do in terms of if you need to use a cart or if you can walk up the stairs of the front of it. Just know how it's going to affect you. And if you have a team of people that is helping you for that setup or breakdown, I would go ahead and make those arrangements now, just to give people a heads up in terms of I'd like some help. Um, because you never know. There's like over 100 vendors trying to go in and leave at the same time. Everyone kind of needs a little extra help. So I just have this list of different things that I kind of think about, and it is something that everyone's going to have a different way of doing a show. These are the things that I think about constantly, and one of my biggest things is knowing not only the layout of my but how I can make sure it runs comfortably and it's something that can work with the neighbors, because I don't know who's going to be my neighbor at the market or at the show. So it'd be nice to be able to work with your neighbors and figure out what, to make this a really nice event. One of the big things is always making sure you have lights. It is an indoor area, and I think that that helps to make it a much more festive environment, but it also highlights your products. So, and having a power supply, whether it's a portable battery or wanting to pay the market for use of electricity, just have that in mind, now. And then in terms of just trying to figure out how to honestly do what you observe as something you'd like to do. You want to create an area on your tables that highlight certain products, center lights around those, make it something that really stands out, and then you're able to rotate things throughout the entire weekend as well. In terms of, so this is just an example of the different booths I've done for different holiday shows. I just wanted to show this as an example that we've gone from anywhere between an 8x6 footprint to a 10x10. And it always feels weird to try to set up and make it work. And I think what people need to know is that, it can be frustrating because you never know, how you're going to interact with customers or what area that they're going to gravitate towards. And to be honest with you, I will figure this out like sort of the first day of any show. And sometimes I'll change it up a little bit for the second day. So be flexible with yourself in terms of how you want to do this. And nothing is set in stone. You can always change it for what works with you. And just showing like another version of just the way I think in terms of customers going through a space. This is obviously not the same map as the Hilton, but you want to kind of pay attention to how traffic flows. And I know that there's different entrances. I believe there's 2 entrances for the main room that have people coming in at different times. You will see sort of a flow of people that are in waves. Just kind of keep that in mind. You might end up with one area of your table that ends up getting highlighted and getting a lot more attention, that you may want to end up kind of putting more stuff there. So I have this up as a way for me to figure out like what works. And when you have a 10x10 space, whether you sell food, whether you are an artist, or you have other products that you have either a lot of or want to make, tastings or what have you, these are different ways to think about doing your setup and also thinking about how traffic will enter your booth. This is like I said, this is my brain. It is, it is the way I think of things because I never know who is going to be able to walk into the booth and how much space I want to be able to give people. So if you want people to walk into your booth, give them plenty of space to be in there, to peruse your items, but also give them sort of a way out that doesn't feel so crowded. This is just another map of sort of what I consider the ideal traffic flow for indoor shows. And for the next one, this is your actual typical way of people going through a show. It has nothing to do with your products. You might get a few people coming in directly to you that know you, but I would keep in mind the areas that are closest to the edge of the entrance of your booth will have more people paying attention to that. And that can be frustrating. So just keep in mind how you set up your booth and how you want people to interact. And then this is a list of the items that I just sort of put on my list of things to bring with me, make sure I have with me for every show. Uh, this may not apply to everybody, but for me, it's just sort of my way of making sure that the show will go well. I have everything I need. If I don't, I actually have a running list on my phone that I will continuously add to. Even small things. I've left jewelry behind back at home that's just waiting to be brought to the show. I've left jewelry, I've left my battery, I've left food for myself there. So these are the things that you can kind of keep on a running list on your phone. Make sure you have everything. The other big thing is because holiday shows can be a little more stressful than the regular market, it just put it by your front door. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but put it by your front door. It'll be waiting for you in the morning, and you'll just kind of thank yourself for having it ready. In terms of wholesale, so as someone who sells jewelry, I may get a lot of small businesses that may want to start carrying my items. And I usually have people come around the holidays. They're kind of looking for new vendors to have in their stores. Um, I recommend right now, if that happens to you, to possibly have either a digital or a hard copy line sheet available so you can hand that directly to them. This is always kind of a good thing to do because you'll be sort of caught off guard. It might be someone who just opened a new store or someone who has maybe looked at your. So that's always kind of good to do. I also do sell my items wholesale at any of these shows. You may not want to, but having that option really does help me and the store owners just kind of pick and choose what they want. So keep that option in mind. And in terms of this list, this is also something I consider going into the next year. So as of right now, I've contacted most of my stores that I'm in to see if they need anything refilled in a way. And that just helps me kind of plan out my time so that I can get those orders done in order to concentrate on these actual holiday markets because you don't want to sort of add so much time to your work where you don't end up being able to feel like you're also you're trying to fulfill your own market with your own product. So, and then just as a big thing is just make sure you have some sort of business card, QR code, some sort of way that identifies you. I know there's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to do paper or not. That's fine. Use your Instagram, use your social media, use all of these other ways that can get your name to them and make sure there's always an email address. They may not have time at that moment to talk to you at the show, but they'll contact you in January or February. And then these are just other things that I consider in terms of the shoppers that kind of go through. And this is also for regular market time too. I try to make it pretty easy for people to peruse. My tables are a little higher because I want people to be able to feel comfortable just to look as they stand. And I actually make it pretty accessible for them to touch the items. I want them to kind of feel them out and to see all the details that I put in them. So I do my displays so it's very hands-on. And you may not want to do that, but it is something that the more the customer kind of like experiences your pieces, sometimes they're more apt to purchase them. But lighting is always a good thing to have. Having a sort of a price list menu also might help in some of these shows inside. Those mostly help out when the noise level can be super loud just from, a lot of people in the same area. And I think just having a price list that you can point to or show them that's really helpful. And also for people who are just wanting to simplify it by price. I find that that helps. Is that my last one? Oh, well, so one other thing I think is that we're always wondering how to do our booths. And for those of you that are still trying to figure it out, honestly, try a few different ways of doing it at the market, or even just test it out in your house, garage or whatever space you can, and kind of walk around it, and check out what you need to do to maybe improve it, highlight, your items. It's kind of a test run. It's a good way to kind of see what other people see. Um, and then, just kind of vendor etiquette is just being nice, maybe helping out your vendor neighbor if they need some help. It's a stressful time. We're all trying to, make as much as we can, and also keep doing what we love to do. So helping each other out really does make a difference. Um, and then in terms of like these other things, you know, I believe the New Seasons folks really took care of, bundles and displays and prepackaged items. But yeah, I just hope everyone is able to just, enjoy the show as much as possible. Um, so one thing I'm doing this year that's a little different is I'm actually going to make a with the various shows I'll be at. And this might be something you might want to do, is to provide your customers with all the different shows either you're going to be at and or the dates that you'll be at the market. I think this really helps people to know where you'll be. Um, I understand social media is a pain, but it does help in sharing stories, and I know I do this thing. You don't have to do it, but it's really helpful to share our community. If you see another vendor from the market, it is nice to kind of share where they're going to be. Even if it's not near you, you might have somebody from that area. So it might just be nice and helpful to help support each other by sharing each other's stories and sharing each other's holiday shows. It could be one that we can really uh, continue to help this community of makers, artists, and farmers, bakers, everybody to, do these wonderful holiday things that the community wants to celebrate. So, and if you have any questions, you're always welcome to come ask me. I only know how to do this based on my own experience, and it's stuff that I have found that works for me. And then there's stuff that doesn't work for me. So you're always welcome to come and just sort of talk to me about whatever in terms of all of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. If anyone has any questions for Sue, we have a couple minutes. Feel free to come off mute or throw them down into the chat. There's one question for me about the holiday market and if there will be a list of vendors and booth numbers at the entrance. And yes, we will have some big maps this year, probably either on the wall or on easels with the full map, the space numbers, where vendors are. We're also planning on creating a digital version so people can utilize it on their phone as well. Anyone have any other questions for Sue? No? Okay. Well, Sue is at the market, the farmer's market, pretty much every week. So if you have any other follow-up questions, she's available. Thank you, Sue. All right, to close us off tonight, our last speaker is Kathy Johnson from Farm Maid Soap, another longtime farmers market business, and they are very, very good at creating a loyal shopper base, and they have a wide variety of products and holiday products. So I'm going to pass it off to Kathy to talk about building a shopper base and continuing the conversation on holiday products.
All right. Thank you so much, Kelsey and Lori and Chris and Sue. You guys did awesome stuff. So thank you so much for all of that you guys did. I want to preface this by saying that some of these things that I'm going to share I'm certainly not saying that these are the only way or even the best way to do some of this stuff, but I'm just going to share some of the things that work for us. So, and then try to take that little bit of information and try to tweak it so that it will, you guys know your customers and try to tweak it to work well for them. My first thing that I think is really important is to know your target market. And part of knowing your target market is knowing what price points they're willing to spend and what they love to buy, right? Because we want to try to get those items at the right price point in front of them. And recognizing too that your target market can change depending on where you are or even the time of year. So for us, for example, during this regular season at the market, we might see a lot of skin issues and things like that. And so we're going to sell a lot of product based off of that. But then as we get into the gift buying times, and then especially at any holiday events, those skin issues are not going to be what we sell mostly, right? It's going to be like gifts and items even for people to purchase for themselves as like, oh, I would like this little item in my house. So just recognizing that to understand your target market, but that it can kind of tweak and change depending on the event that you're at or even the time of year. One of the things that I just want to touch on are ways to increase our sales. And one time, like a training that I was at, one of the things that I thought was really fabulous that they said was one of the best way to increase your sales is by marketing a new product to your current customers. My phone hasn't rang for hours, and of course now it rings because I didn't shut it off. Let me shut that off. There we go. Anyway, so we want to try to market something. Like one of the ways is to market something to customers who you already have because they're already loyal to you and they already love you. So if you can figure out a new product that they might buy, that's a great way to increase some of your dollars. But be careful not to just market a variation of something that you already have, because then they're just buying like this variation instead of something new. So for example, if I just add a new scent in soap or candles, then maybe they'll just buy that scent instead of a different scent. Instead, I need to try to find a little bit different, maybe it's in a different container or something that's a little bit different to create an additional sale. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. And I wanted to talk about one of the things that Kelsey mentioned is creating and managing seasonal inventory. We try not to spend a whole bunch of money on new raw materials to create those new items, because if we spend a lot of money on new raw materials or special packaging, then if we have to make a big purchase of that, and that can actually like just eat into the bottom line of what we actually keep. So instead, I kind of try to think of it as like, what do I already have in the pantry, right? If I was cooking, how can I take those same ingredients in the pantry and make a new something, right? Like a new dish. So that's one of the things that we try to take on with that. And maybe I do have to make a small purchase, like maybe it's a new mold to make some embeds, but that's the only thing that I have to purchase that then can make a whole bunch of embeds. I already have the wax. I already have all of the different scents and essential oils. So just try to think of in terms of how can I recreate using the ingredients that I already have. We also think that it's a great, like our holiday markets and events, and even right now at the market, is a great way to build our brand and to create some new customer loyalty. So how I look at that is we have some like lower end price point items that to kind of like catch that impulse purchase that I don't remember if it was Lori who said it or if it was Sue who said it, but you do want to have something that, at least for us, that can kind of catch that impulse buy as well. And then the goal for us with that is that if they purchase that little impulse item, that then, wow, they take that home and they love it. Then my goal is not to only create that sale, which of course is helpful because it's dollars in that moment, but instead to create a customer in the process, because now maybe then they're going to come back and purchase something at, at like a bigger item or a bigger price point. So just trying to look at not just creating the sale, but to create the customer and what can we do to do that. I know Sue had the things like the idea of the business card or a card or a flyer with all of the other events that you're going to be at. We've done that in the past too, when we went to a lot of different places, and customers were very, like, they used that a lot. So Sue, that has been really effective for us in the past too. And then I think it was Lori who mentioned like the frequent buyers card, right? Like buy 5 and get a free one, or that kind of a thing. And we do that as well. Customers love something free. And we're actually pretty liberal with our punches, because like the punch marks, it takes quite a few on ours to get a free item. But the punch marks, when you add an extra punch mark on there, just because maybe they came out in the rain, or maybe, right, maybe they were the first customer of the day or something like that, they feel like, oh, you gave me something for free. And so those little things really create some loyalty and some affinity with customers. Let's see. One of the things too, I think, like when you looked at Sue's booth setup, you could really see that it was really full. And if you've ever heard me talk before, you've heard me talk about abundance, and abundance sells. And I think Chris mentioned too, make sure you have plenty, right? Customers have this weird thing about not wanting to take the very last item. So try to have your display look very full. And if something sells out, like Sue was saying as well, move something else to that area and really keep your space looking full. Display at different levels so that people, your booth looks really full. If you can make it more vertical instead of more flat, it's going to look fuller. So we try really hard to just create a very abundant look. I think there was a question when Chris and Lori were talking about how much should I bring. So I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to maybe mention during this time too. We have found at this particular event that it's kind of like 2 market weekends as far as how much that we sell at this event. Is that Sue? Yeah, Sue's nodding her head. Is that about right for you too, Sue? Yeah. So if you're already a Vancouver Farmers Market vendor, but you haven't vended at the holiday market, that's a good gauge for it. And then new vendors, maybe you can look at like, if you've been at other holiday events, how much do you do an hour on average? Like what is your hourly sales amount? And then multiply that out by how many hours. Kelsey, how many hours is it altogether? Do you know? Of sales hours?
That's a good question. I have to calculate that really quickly. It's
okay. Well, so but
Let me do
whatever
that.
that sells, right? Like however long you're going to be there, if you could take that hourly, right, and you could kind of like back plan it from that. So I know that is helpful for us too. And then also like when Sue was talking, there's a difference between outdoor and indoor, right? And weather impacts both outdoor and indoor. If it's going to be, if there's a chance of snow, that's going to impact the indoor events. And just be prepared for what that looks like. Or if it's going to be snowy on one day or very rainy on one day, then it's going to likely be busier on the other day. And so just be prepared that you have enough product for the busier of the days. And I agree with Sue too, with the things come in waves, and it will feel like, oh, the market's died. And then all of a sudden there'll be like a whole wave of people that will come through. So during those slow times, do your best to not be discouraged, because the waves will come back. I think the other thing, one last thing, I don't have a ton to say. Oh, did you figure it out, Kelsey?
Yeah, it's 19 hours total, 5 hours on Friday and then 7 hours Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. And then it is a little bit different too. I find this, and Sue, I don't know if you find this as well or anybody else, Indoor events, that last hour, things slow way down. Outdoor events don't have that as much. Like at the farmer's market. At the farmer's market, it can be busy as long as there's not like a 1:30 shower of rain. But if it's just a normal average weather day, the market can be pretty steady, clear up until 3 o'clock. But know that on an indoor event, that last hour of each of those days is going to likely be slower. So just be prepared mentally for that as well, and use that opportunity as a way to move some product around and get it ready for the next day. Or we find too, being very engaged with not just with customers, but also with our product. So we will bring work to do, because customers like to see that it really is your product. And even if it's an employee, they can bring stuff to do. So you'll see us labeling soap or what, different activities. Customers like to see that. And so you can use that time to fill a little bit of downtime with just not standing there looking like you're about to pounce on anybody who comes in, right, to your booth. So it's good to just look and be busy. I think, hold on, what did I say? Just again, I think everybody has touched on this. Ways to stand out are to be friendly, to be engaging, have those price points, try to talk with people at events like this. You're not just selling your item, you're really selling yourself, and people want to feel good about who they're talking to, and finding little ways that you can tell little parts of your story that connect with them. Because if you can create a connection, then you may not only create that individual sale, but then that long-term relationship. So I don't really have a ton more. That's kind of our how we kind of do things. So I don't know, Kelsey, was there anything else that you thought I should hit on?
Did you touch on knowing your customer? I know you had said you wanted
A little bit. Yeah, I just touched on how important it is, but some of the ways that you can figure that out, if you're a new vendor, look at what people are drawn to, and then try to capitalize on those items. And knowing trends in your industry. So you can find some trends in your industry. Like for us, I can even just walk down the grocery store place and look at like the different air fresheners and all those kind of things. What is trending right now, right? Those people are like, those smells trend for everybody. And that's part of knowing who your target market is. If your target market is a very high-end customer, then you're not going to want to sell a $5 item, because they're not going to purchase that item. It will not feel high-end enough to them. But at the same time, if your customer is, a working mom of 4 who's got issues and with like dollars, and kids are making her crazy or whatever, then you might want to find a way to try to catch that little price point first, so then she can fall in love with your product. So just, I think it's important to know who your target market is. Sometimes they'll talk about an avatar and trying to visualize what that looks like. That one's hard for me to try to do. Instead, I've just, we keep really great stats records so that we know what's selling and what's not. And that helps us.
Great,
So
thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. Short and fast and sweet.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Kathy? One thing you showed that I really love is that customer service component, adding that extra punch and making them feel special. I think that's a really good strategy for building a loyal shopper.
Yeah. It's kind of funny too. One thing that I like to do at our booth a lot of times is give high fives. It seems kind of silly, but there's a moment of connection when you give a high five. If you feel comfortable with that, you can't hardly give a high five and not smile. And when people it's part of how we say thank you. Yeah, hey, thanks so much, and high five, have a great day. When they leave with that kind of a feeling, that is really a great way for them to walk away from your booth thinking, "Ooh, I'm going to come back there." Right? So,
Thank you. There's
you're welcome.
one question about, can vendors food vendors sample products at the holiday market? Yes, you can. you will just have to, if you haven't already and you don't already have the permit, apply through Clark County Public Health for the permit to be able to sample and follow all of the food safety guidelines that they require. If you have that permit already, you should be good. If not, and you want information, feel free to reach out to us and we can get that to you. All right, last call for any questions.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead, Sue. Yeah.
Can I add one thing? Sorry, I just wanted to also mention, if anybody isn't sure how to run a booth, everyone check out Kathy's booth, because of the way it is set up and the way it is run. I think that it is one of the clearest examples of how you can run a booth and have a movement to it that really makes sense. So please go see Kathy's booth. It is really good. It's amazing. It's got so many different products, but I think it's one everyone could learn from. Whether or not you make something similar, or even jewelry vendors could really learn something about having a booth just by, going to visit yours.
Wow, thank you. One thing that we do try to do with that is make it so that multiple people can shop at the same time. And that does mean that we have the same exact product in, like, if it's one of our top sellers, we have that in more than one location. So that when somebody's standing looking at that thing, somebody else can be looking at that same thing in a different spot. Because I mean, you want to capture them, right? And if you know that you've got these few things that are the stuff that people tend to want to look at and buy, give more people an opportunity to look at that item or those items to try to get them in. So, but thank you, Sue. That's very kind.
All right. Well, thank you again so much to all of our presenters for sharing all of your knowledge. And thank you to everyone for attending. I really hope you took away some new ideas or strategies for this holiday season. We will send out all the slides and the recordings afterwards. And yeah, I hope you have a really wonderful holiday season. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you soon. Bye, thank you.